As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And this week it is episode 214, and we're talking about, I don't know, what would you call this? Is it a cornerstone of the NES library? I don't know if I'd go that far. It's the debut of a Nintendo institution. Kinda. Nintendo seems to fall in and out of love with Samus all the time. I don't know. However you want to categorize it, we are talking Metroid, the original Metroid, the debut of Samus for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I played a lot of NES as a kid, but this was one I missed. I didn't discover Metroid until Super Metroid on the SNES, which is fucking spectacular, by the way. I think we all know that. And honestly, I never felt a massive urge to go back and play the original Metroid. I tried it a couple of times and I just get fucking destroyed, and I was like, to hell with this. I don't need to play this. But when I was on holidays in July, I wanted to play something retro just to knock a game off that I wanted to cover on the podcast when I got home. And I was scrolling through the NES catalog on my Switch and I saw Metroid, and I thought to myself, Remember the Game cannot end without an episode about Metroid. So we're doing it, and yes, this will be the last episode of the pod. No, I'm kidding. But I grinded through it. It ruined my fucking relaxing holiday because it's hard as balls. Every time I'd get mad at it, my girlfriend would be like, "Why are you playing that?" And I was like, "'Cause I'm trying to relax." And she was like, "You don't seem very relaxed." And then I was like, "Well, you fucking beat it." And she was like, anyways. I did need to look up a map. I'll admit it. I'm not ashamed of it. We talked about it during the recording this week. But I did beat this game. And while I'm glad that it's done and I can say I finished it, I can confidently say I will never play Metroid for the NES again. Holy fuck, it's tough. My guest this week is my childhood chum, Daniel, the biggest Metroid fan I know. He also just finished the game for the first time, and we had a nice beefy chat about how trailblazing this game was, but how soul-crushing it can be at the same time. And we'll get there in just a minute because, speaking of soul-crushing yet trailblazing, it's time for another edition of the Remember the Game infamous intro. Dun, 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 dun. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome aboard. Consider this your warning. Our intros are kind of long, but they're fun. We talk video games and stuff, and they're not nearly as long as Metroid's fucking passwords are. So just be aware of that. If you do want to skip it, go about 30 minutes up the road. But before you do that, listen, just the last couple of weeks, I've had the occasional person, and it's been few, very few, but the occasional person saying that episodes are kind of skipping around as they get 20, 30, 40 minutes in. No two people have had it skip in the same spot, and it hasn't been a majority of people, and it hasn't been contained to one platform. So I'm not going to lie to you all. I don't know. The master file of the podcast is fine on my end, as fine as, the quality of my shit podcast, and I can't get it to give me that issue here. So I have reached out to a couple of support things and been told, just make sure you've actually downloaded the episode, you're not streaming it, because they are getting kind of big. I'm sorry. Other than that, I'm not sure what's causing it. I do know people have said youtube.com/rememberthegame. They've had no problems. I believe streaming it off the website, rememberthegamepodcast.com, has been the same thing. But if you're going to listen to it, just make sure you download it. And from what I understand, that seems to fix most of the problems people have had the last couple of weeks. And I apologize. I don't know what's causing it. All right. We have merchandise. We have hoodies, t-shirts, coffee mugs, posters, tank tops, all rocking incredible art that was drawn by my man Joe. You can find his work at 4545creative.com, and you can find our merchandise at rememberthegamepodcast.com. If you're interested, it's a great way to support the show. Help us hire some PIs to figure out who's fucking with my podcast. And of course, if you don't want to wear clothes, and I get it, it's hot out, then you can always just support us on Patreon, because for only $2 a month, you get 2 extra podcasts every week. That's like 8 to 10 podcasts a month for $2. You get exclusive access to my gaming news show, Game Badge, every Friday, where I look at the biggest news in modern video games. I added my opinions and some profanity and stuff. And you get Expansion Pass every Thursday, which is a different show every week. We do video game rankings, console rankings, character, all kinds of rankings. We look back at specific characters or consoles. We do some comedy-centric episodes. There's lots of modern game reviews. This past week on Expansion Pass, I reviewed the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection. I broke down the extras in the collection, how the games actually play, my thoughts on the package as a whole, and then I did toss a quick ranking of all the games that are in the collection as well at the end of the episode. I didn't get super in-depth for each game because some of them have been covered on Remember the Game and others will be down the road. This was more about the collection as a whole, and as is becoming tradition, here is a sneak peek of last week's episode of Expansion Pass, my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection review. There's boxes and manuals for every game, and it really does, again, I don't know if it's just artwork and the way they designed it or not, but it looks like they got an actual box from every game in the collection, flattened it and scanned it, because you can see the cardboard flaps. Like, it's not just the main cover art. Like, you can see the flaps along the top and the bottom of if you were to take the NES box for Turtles 2 and flatten it, that's what this is. It's everything. And you can see the front and the backs of every box for both North America and Japan, which is really cool. It also has full page-by-page manuals for every game in the collection, which I think is fucking sick. Which of us didn't grow up reading those manuals as kids? So it's really neat to, again, you're probably going to only read through them once, but it was a real trip for me to sit down and read the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles instruction manual again, the black and white manual that I read 3 trillion times as a kid. So I thought that was really, really cool. So that's now available in our archives. And this week for Expansion Pass 128, it's time. September 15th, 2020, I released Gamer Confessions as an episode of Expansion Pass, where I reacted to listeners' deepest game shames, and it instantly became the most popular episode of Expansion Pass up to that point. September 15th, 2021, we did Gamer Confessions Part 2, and people seemed to like it even more. You know what this Thursday is? September 15th. So you knew we were going there. Gamer Confessions Part 3 goes live tomorrow for all of our Patreons. So again, $2 gets you 2 additional shows every week, plus instant access to well over 200 archived bonus podcasts, plus access to the Remember the Game Discord, the chance to vote in our Patreon poll every month, the ability to submit comments to be read on all of our shows, and you get a shout out and get to hear me mispronounce your name like I'm about to do to most of these people. A huge thank you to all of our newest patrons. Tip Top Tyler, Corbin Flowers, Art Vandalay, I love that. Thrill House, I love that too. Works for Me, V, Jiang Vu, sorry Yang if I said that wrong, I'm sure I did. Michael Alessandro, Luke Dariak, Dane Nidarost, Albert Talamonte, Blake Hirshu, Brian Beach, Daniel Knight, Ikaj Tataba. I can see that's Abbott. You just put your name backwards to fuck with me. Ikaj Taba. Ace Trainer Kalis. I think Kalis. James Berggren. Booyaka. and Jamie the Scotsman. I think that might have been among the worst editions of the shoutouts I've ever done. But thank you all so much, and welcome to Remember the Game Industries, patreon.com/rememberthegame. And 2 quick notes. We offer annual memberships now at all of our tiers where you can save. The 12th month is on the house, and 5% of our Patreon every month is being added to a pot that we are going to donate to the Stoller Children's Hospital at the end of the year. We're at almost $2,000 with 3 months to go. So thank you all so much. Patreon.com/rememberthegame. And you can check me out on Twitch whenever I get a chance to get on there. I don't really have a regular schedule. Twitch.tv/memberthegame. I don't bug you for subs or anything. You're welcome to just come hang out, look at my dumb face, and it's lots of fun. That's enough blowing myself. Let's blow some of you by blowing in the cartridge. It is our opening segment here on the show. I read a few comments and questions from our Patreons, usually gaming related, but not always, and we call this segment Blowing in the Cartridge.
He blows all right. He blows big time.
That's it, honey. Get into the spirit.
Let's blow. Our first blower this week is Roto Baggins, who wrote in and said, Dear Adam, I see you're on a bunch of social media platforms. Why no TikTok? I'm sure you know that it's way more than teenagers dancing, but you may not know that the retro gaming community there is a decent size and awesome. The answer is probably time, but I seriously doubt you'd have to put in much effort to get to the 10,000 follower range, and it would definitely help push both your comedy and your podcasts. Thanks again for everything. I'm loving the shows. Well, thank you, Roto Baggins. And actually, a few people have asked me this. Why am I not on TikTok? And the answer is, you're right, first of all, Roto. It would absolutely make sense business-wise. The reason I'm not on TikTok is the same reason I'm no longer on Facebook, which is why the Remember the Game Facebook page no longer exists. I hate it. I'm an old man. I'm almost 40, and I just fucking hate social media. It is the worst part of my jobs, of both being a podcast host and being a comedian, is social media. I hate it. Like, I would play nothing but Echo the Dolphin for the rest of my life. If it meant that I had to spend like every waking hour that I wasn't playing it on social, like, all I'm trying to say, okay, that doesn't make sense. What I'm trying to say is I would rather play Echo the Dolphin than fuck around with social media. I hate it. God, I fucking hate it. But you are right. It does make sense from a business perspective, and it is something that I'm going to be looking into down the road. I may be hiring somebody to take care of some of that stuff for me. And before I get like 400 emails, which usually happens when I talk about hiring somebody, which thank you all, by the way. I have friends around Edmonton that are comedians and in the industry that are always looking for work. And if I hire someone, I'm going to throw them a couple of bucks. I'm going to throw them some love and ask them to take care of it for me. But I don't know. No, I'm not there yet. Eventually, I will probably get on stupid fucking TikTok. Because you're right, Roto. It's just me being stubborn. It would make sense from a business perspective. I just fucking hate it. But you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at MemberTheGame if you're interested. And at AdamBlank17. That's my personal Twitter and Instagram if you're interested. Thanks for writing in, Roto. Brandon Brandon DeZeba wrote in and said, Adam, when you get a moment in life, are you watching anything good in terms of movies or TV shows? Keep on kicking ass. Thanks, Brandon. And no, I know it's a lame answer, but no, not really. We just finished Better Call Saul. I don't really watch a lot of TV. I watch sports, and then I watch like the same 5 shows. I watch Sopranos, South Park, The Simpsons, Seinfeld, and then I mix in some Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and then that's really about it. So I'm trying to think. So the last TV show I watched was Better Call Saul, and the last movie I saw, gosh, what was it? Maybe Bullet Train? And Bullet Train was actually pretty entertaining, but I only go if my friends want to go, or if it's like a superhero movie sometimes. But yeah, I just, if anyone's wondering, like the reason I haven't covered a lot of video games is because I haven't seen a lot of the movies. And I don't want to go down the whole list because every time I do, I get so many messages from people giving me shit because I've never seen Jaws or Terminator or fucking anything Star Trek. Trek? Is that how you say it? Star Trek? I don't know. I haven't seen anything. So I'm Friday the 13th. I haven't seen anything. So I'm sorry. I have seen all South Park like 100 times. Thanks for writing in, Brandon. Michael Alessandro wrote in and said, "Hey Adam, if you or is there any video game character Hey Adam, there is any video game character you like, okay. I'm sorry. I understand. I'm sorry. If there is any video game character you'd like to have a drink with, who would it be? Personally, I would like to have a drink with Captain Price from the Modern Warfare franchise. This guy has been through a lot, and it'd be cool to hear more about his experiences. Plus, the guy is an ultimate badass. Keep on doing what you do, man. I love the content, despite the fact that I can't read. So thank you, Michael. Man, if I could go for a beer with any video game character, my first thought was Wario, because I feel like Mario and Luigi wouldn't drink, and I think Wario can, look at his nose, Wario can put back a few. So my first thought is Wario, and if he's unavailable, then I'm going to go with Sid from Final Fantasy VII. Because while I don't adore Final Fantasy VII, I do adore Sid. He's my favorite Final Fantasy character. He's just a surly old man, as I am now, and I'd love to just get together with him and bitch about Kate Sith for fucking 2 hours. So I would tie one on with Wario or Sid from Final Fantasy VII. JB Sharps wrote in and said, "Hey Adam, fairly new listener here. Out of curiosity, what's the story behind calling your listeners/followers hot dogs? Don't get me wrong, I'm flattered, but I don't think we deserve such praise. I think a more appropriate term for us will be something like shitheads or turd nuggets, because God knows we act like it at all times." Well, okay, so some of you do, but so do I, and I can't call you that. That's terrible PR. I do answer this question every few months, but I don't mind I get asked it a lot because, new people come across the podcast, and I have no beef with answering it again. In case anyone is wondering, I was streaming Super Mario Brothers: The Lost Levels on on Twitch a few years ago. And if you've not played that game, it is notoriously difficult. It's fucking vicious. And on Twitch, you can set up like channel points that people earn while they watch your stream, and then they can cash them in for stupid, nonsensical rewards. And one of my rewards is you swear too much. And if you cash in enough points, I'm not allowed to swear for a certain amount of time. And I was playing Lost Levels, and I was getting so mad at this fucking level. And then somebody cashed in the fucking points to say that I couldn't swear. And so I said, fine, fair enough. But when that 10 minutes is up, I'm going to let loose. And I played by the rules, and I didn't swear for 10 minutes. And then when that 10 minutes was over, I invented swear words. I threw every swear word I could fucking think of out there. And then I made up a bunch. And at the very end, I just happened to call them a hot dog. It just happened to be what popped into my head, and then it just became a term of endearment around here, and it stuck. So in case anyone is wondering, I'll answer it again probably in about 6 months, which is fine. I'm glad, because if I'm answering, that means people are discovering the podcast, and I'm grateful. Yeah, that's why, because somebody decided to troll me on Twitch, and I got mad. That's why you're all hot dogs. Max Renault wrote in and said, "Hello, Adam. You went to see an All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view in Vegas. I'd like to hear about your experience. I'm a huge wrestling fan myself, and we occasionally get shows here in Ottawa. I got tickets to go see AEW Dynamite in Toronto. It'll be my first live event, and I'm nervous as fuck because I don't do well in huge indoor crowds. I'd like to know, how was your experience being part of the crowd? Was it hype? Am I worrying too much? Thanks, and stay safe, man. I love your podcast." Well, thank you, Max, and I hope you have fun. I'm jealous that AEW is going to Toronto. I hope they come to Edmonton eventually. Just for what, and this is not a sales pitch. Every week, I guess it is a sales pitch, but I don't mean it that way. I'm going to answer your question. For $2 a month on Patreon, you get 2 additional podcasts a week. What I rarely plug is that for $5 a month, you get 3 podcasts a week. And the third one is called The Rambling Idiot, which goes live every Tuesday, and it has nothing to do with video games. I just talk about my life, my experiences, comedy stories, wrestling, whatever is just on my mind that isn't video games. And there is a full episode about my trip to Vegas, including AEW. I'm not saying you got to go subscribe. I'm going to tell you, but just in case anyone's interested. It was awesome. I had a great time. It was not my first live wrestling event, but it was my first live pay-per-view, and we had a fucking blast, dude. It was so much fun. They knocked it out of the park. It was so good. Now, as far as being in the crowd goes, it was sold out or very close. It was at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, which is where the Golden Knights play. So it was like a full-size stadium. Arena, whatever. We sat in the first row of the second bowl, and so it was great. Walking down the stairs to our seats was a trip because it was so steep, but once we were there was nobody in front of us. We didn't really look at the people behind us. We just had a couple people on either side. So if you don't do well in crowds, I'm not going to lie to you, it is going to be crowded, assuming they sell out. I assume they're going to sell out. It is going to be crowded, and it is going to be loud, and there's going to be a lot of yelling. If you're I've never sat on the floor at a big wrestling event, so I'm not quite sure what that's like, but when you're in the stands, it's not too bad. People might get up and stand and like when something crazy happens or to start the show, but other than that, it's no different than going to like a hockey game or anything. You can just sit down and just enjoy the matches and yell when you want to, and I think as long as you keep it fairly clean, I don't think anyone's going to have a problem with you. So I wouldn't get too worried about it. Just, if you're on the floor, I don't know, maybe that's going to be different. I thought it was great, but crowds don't bother me. It was one of the funnest experiences I've ever had, to be honest with you. And I'll say this, you know what? I'll go one step further and say to all of you listening, if you even casually accept the art of professional wrestling, even if you're not a big pro wrestling fan, live pro wrestling is a great fucking time. And it doesn't matter if it's WWE or AEW or Impact or your local indie federation, whatever, it doesn't matter. Live pro wrestling is like, my girlfriend wasn't a wrestling fan until I made her go to a wrestling event with me, and then she was like, that was really fucking fun. When you get into it and you start yelling at your favorites and booing the people you hate, it's just, it adds to it to be in a group of people that also love pro wrestling. So let me know how it goes, Max. I think you're going to have a good time. And I hope the acclaimed are there because everybody loves the acclaimed. Jared Andrade wrote in and said, "Hey, Adam, I just joined the Remember the Game Patreon last week, but I've been listening to your podcast for a while now. Anyway, I remember on one of your episodes, you said that you liked the Gears of War games. So I was wondering, are you planning on reviewing one of them or maybe the series as a whole on the show? Keep up the good work and take care." I will take care, Jared. You do the same. Yes, that is one of the games I get asked about the most is Gears of War. I am a really big Gears of War fan. I've played all of them. I will say, first of all, yes, we are at some point going to review the original Gears of War. I want to do it on a mile. I'll just, you know what? I'll pull back the curtain and give you all a peek. There's certain games that I try to save for like the 50 increments, like the big milestone numbers. Episode 50 was Mario 64. Episode 100 was Halo 2. Episode 150 was Super Mario Brothers. Episode 200 was Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm just letting you all know right now, as of now, my tentative plan for 250 and 300, assuming the show makes it that far and I don't get canceled, are Gears of War and The Last of Us. And I have no idea which order those two will go in, but The Last of Us is one of my favorite games ever, and Gears of War is the game that brought me back to gaming after I stopped for a while in my 20s. That was Gears of War is a big deal to me. I haven't played any of the multiplayer, so I will warn you all right now. When we do finally review Gears of War, it's going to be campaign. I don't do multiplayer. I'm sorry, Halo's been the same thing. I don't really do those. But yes, so to answer your question, it's a ways away, but there's a reason for it. I'm saving it for a special episode because it's a special game. We will review Gears of War at some point. Promise you. And finally, before we move on, it's letter time. It's letter time. Mercury869 wrote in and said, "What's going on, Adam under Dunk Blank?" I like that handle. "I've always wondered, how do you choose your guests? Do you just ask them if they want to chat about certain games? Do you have experts for each genre? Or did you get them to submit information that's stored on a secret database at Remember the Game headquarters that if something was to happen, those shameful secrets would be revealed? Have a good week, buddy." No, first of all, I have a deal in place with my best friend that if something ever happens to me, his first goal isn't to come to the hospital or to check in on my parents. It is to come to my house and delete my browser history. So never worry about that. How I pick my guests. So I get a ton of messages from new listeners that listen to the early episodes where I used to, because that's how I signed the show off 4 years ago when we started, 4 years ago, was, hey, if you want to come on the show, let me know. I used to say that because I didn't think anyone would ever listen. I thought it would just be my friends. I was just trying to learn how to edit a podcast. And then when things started to blow up and I started getting messages from everybody, I was like, I can't possibly get everybody on this show. So now I kind of have like a set roster of my friends. A lot of them are either fellow comedians or just good friends of mine that I know are also enthusiastic gamers, or, you know, my brother makes a couple of appearances. The thing is, and I don't mean this as any disrespect toward anybody else, not everybody's good at this. And maybe you'll argue that I'm not good at this. Or maybe you'll argue that some of my guests aren't good at this. That's your prerogative. I think we're decent at this. Listen, you do not want me to change the oil in your car. You certainly don't want me to cook you dinner. And you probably don't want me to clean your house because while I do it, I don't do it very well. But if you need someone to just sit in front of a microphone and talk for 2 hours, I can do that. And so I try to bring on people that I think can do it as well, or people that I have good chemistry with, pardon me. There's no specific genres tied to people or anything like that. They're just people I like talking to. And usually how it works is I have an Excel sheet of every game from every console that I think I can hold a conversation about. And I'll usually send it to one of my, I'll send it out to my guests and be like, yo, are there any games on here you think you could handle a conversation about? And then they'll write back and be like, oh yeah, Daniel was like, I could talk Metroid. So I said, fuck yeah, let's talk Metroid. That's really it. There's really no method. I know it's maybe like, it's the equivalent of we need some more secret sauce, put that mayonnaise in the sun. Shout out to him, is that reference. But that's really just all it is. They're just friends of mine that like video games that I like talking to. And there's really no other magic to it other than that. So anyway, thanks for writing in, Mercury. Thank you to everybody that wrote in this week. As always, we've got to move on. So let's switch things up and get to our Smash Hit segment, the official game show of Remember the Game Industries. Play one, remake one, erase one. And a huge thank you to Classic Concentration from the NES for unknowingly providing us with the theme music for the show. The rules are simple. Every week, I give our patrons 3 retro video games. They can play one as it was released, remake one as a modern game, and the third one is erased from time forever. And as always, there are no wrong answers, but there is a right one. I'll tell you what it is in a minute. And this week, I figured we're talking a game that's NES tough in Metroid, so I went with 3 more games that are NES tough. And if you don't know what that term means, it means they're almost impossible. And that is Fester's Quest, Battletoads, and Blaster Master. And 43% of you said you'd play Battletoads, remake Blaster Master, and erase Fester's Quest. Now, I gotta say, I have a hot take on that because I have played all 3 of these games. I have something to say about all. I haven't played a ton of Fester's Quest, but I have played it. Let me see what a few of you had to say here, and then I'll tell you what the right answer was. Dan S. wrote in and said, I'd play Fester's Quest. The cover looks rad, and that's how I would have judged a game worthy to rent or buy back in the day. That's fair. Remake Battletoads. Give us a Shredder's Revenge style remake, and I'd be happy. Erase Blaster Master. Game sucks, bro. Your Let's Play reminded me of this. I want to say my uncle had this back in the day and wanted me to play it. The second he left, me and my cousin slapped Blades of Steel in the gray brick, and we never looked back. Yeah, Blaster Master, I think it's a great game. The first half. And I'll get into that in a minute. That game is tough as shit. And if you are interested, youtube.com/remember the game. My Adam Sucks at Video Game Let's Play series is over there. I do have a full Let's Play of Blaster Master, including some dying montages and a lot of rage and a lot of save scumming. And I don't even care. I had to. It's impossible. I had to save scum. So, sound logic, Dan. Kimos Bia? It looks like it should be Kimosabi, but it's Kimos Bia? Said, play Blaster Master. It's still good and it's already been remade. Remake even has a sequel with big plant boobies. What's not to like? Is that true? Remake Fester's Quest rather than erase it for being bad. I'd love to see a modern Addams Family game. Last one was in 2001, not counting a more recent mobile game. And then delete Battletoads. I only really ever played the first couple levels, and Ninja Turtles had the superior beat 'em up anyway. Hated that high-speed floaty vehicle section. That just got you on double secret probation, Kimos Bia. I was really down with everything you said until you said the fucking speed bikes put you on, that got you mad. The speed bikes are Battletoads. That's like saying I love McDonald's, but the fries suck. No. You suck. And now, I'm sorry. I hate to do it. It's been a few weeks since I think. Maybe I did it last week. I feel like it's been a few weeks since I lost my shit on somebody, but double secret probation for dunking on the speed bikes. If you want to say Battletoads is too hard, it sucks, sure. But I'll be goddamned if I'm going to sit here and let you badmouth those speed bikes. Nintendoosh said, play Battletoads. Thank you. Toads are meant to have warts, and this game has plenty of them. That's incredibly well said. That should be on the box for Battletoads. Remake Blaster Master. I know there's a Blaster Master Zero series, but a remake in the engine of the 2D HD would be dank. Erase Fester's Quest. Fester's been making bald people look bad for years. I'm bald, and I'm sick of Fester's Quest. Quester's Fest, it says. Pardon me. Quester's Fest. I'm not bald, and I'm not trying to throw shade at bald people, but I don't feel comfortable judging the way someone feels about a fellow bald person. So fair enough, Nintendoosh. Ben Torma wrote in and said, play Fester, only because I played it for like 5 minutes as a kid and I feel like I should give it a chance. Remake Blaster Master because it was a good idea, but the gameplay suffered from clunky controls. And erase Battletoads because I played enough of it back in the day to know I don't need to play it anymore. See, that's the right answer. You're not throwing shade at the speed bikes. You're just saying, not for me, too spicy. That's fair. I can live with that. Not like motherfucking Kimos Bia. And John Truckosaurus said, play Blaster Master. I grew up playing that. The game is dope. Remake Battletoads. I grew up playing this too. It's a great game, but it's so frustratingly hard. Remake it to have modern graphics, online capabilities, and let's be honest, make it fucking beatable with rewind capabilities and save states for those of us that have been coddled for the last 25 years with modern games. Erase Fester for the simple fact that I watched the Angry Video Game Nerds episode on this game and it's broken. I'm sure the problems could be fixed, but I'd still have zero interest in playing a remake. I have no problem with that logic either. I will say, for all of you that are asking for Battletoads to be remade, check out the modern Battletoads. It's on Xbox. I beat it. It's fun, and it's not as challenging as the original ones. And it's really, I like it. I wish more people liked that game. I really like it. There's actually a review of it in the expansion pass archive for our patrons as well. I think I actually have to agree with the majority this week, which I rarely do, including Sir Busts-A-Lot, who said, play Battletoads. It's great. I'd honestly love to see it remade, but Blaster Master is hot trash. I feel a remake could do some of those awesome backgrounds justice, as well as smooth over the controls. As far as Fester's Quest, I mean, Addams Family meets Alien sounds sexy, but the stupid weapon system was ass. Most of the guns fire in a 360 pattern, and holy fuck, those first-person building walkthroughs are steaming piles of goat shit. God damn, I understand the appeal of licensed games, but fuck. I read that as just like an angry rant. That's how it came across to me. I agree with the logic. I personally would play Battletoads because I still love it. I know people don't like it. I do. I love Battletoads, and I can't risk fucking with it and losing future Battletoads games like Battletoads and Battlemaniacs and Battletoads 2020, which I fucking love even more. I would remake Blaster Master because the first half of that game is sick, and then the second half of that game is the fucking spawn of Satan. It's awful. So I would remake it and just make the second half beatable. And then I'd erase Fester's Quest. I do remember renting this one a couple of times as a kid. I haven't played it enough to review it on the show, which is why we haven't. I did rent it, though. I like it. I don't have a beef with Fester's Quest. I just like Battletoads and Blaster Master better. That's literally all it comes down to. So thank you to everybody that wrote in and played this week. As always, what have I been playing over the last 7 days? And then we'll get into talking Metroid. I have been playing the Turtles Cowabunga collection, but I am slowly fizzling out on it now. I love it. I've put a lot of time into it. It's great. Again, my review on Expansion Pass went live last week, but I am starting to move on from it now. I'm still playing through Grand Theft Auto 4 in preparation for an upcoming episode of Remember the Game. Really enjoying that. I'm playing The Last of Us Part 1 on the PS5, and yes, it's because I'm part of the problem and I bought it. That said, it's one of my favorite games ever, and it does look and play really sexily. Sexily? Is that a word? Yeah, it's a word. On the PlayStation 5. I love The Last of Us. And then I'm playing Splatoon 3, which dropped on Friday. And it's fucking awesome. If you like the first two Splatoons, Splatoon 3 is a slam dunk. If you didn't like them, it's not going to change your mind. I like those two games. I'm really digging Splatoon 3. We will be reviewing that on an expansion pass at some point, probably in October, in case you're curious. Let's talk Metroid. That's why you kids are here. I like to give our listeners a chance to sound off on the game we're covering before my guest and I hog the microphone. Let's rip through a couple of these comments here. Chris Sticks said, my friend Justin Bailey loves this game. I gotta say, Chris Sticks, I had to Google this to see what the reference was about, and that's what you got read for. What is that? I Googled it and saw what that was about. I was like, well, all right, that's a fucking great pull. Well done. And you were the first one of 2 or 3 people that commented on a Justin Bailey thing. And if you don't know what that is, just Google Metroid Justin Bailey, and you will find the answer yourselves. I'm not here to do your I had to Google it, so use your own goddamn internet. Johnny CCDC said, top of the morning to you, Adam. Metroid is a game that blew me all the way back in the day. The world was gigantic. The music was fantastic. The weapons are super cool. And the reveal at the end for its time was utterly shocking. Samus Aran, is that how you say it? Arun? I've always just said Samus. Is one of my favorite video game characters of all time, and this was a fantastic blueprint of even more stellar things to come. Hopefully you've played Zero Mission already. If not, I'd argue it's the definitive way to play this game moving forward. Cheers. Yeah, I have not played Zero Mission. I think we get into that a little bit at the end of this episode. My understanding as well is that Zero Mission is the way to play it. The NES version, unless you're you're a sucker for tradition and you want to see where it started, you can avoid it. It's tough. Jesus fuck. Strife89 said, Metroid Prime was my introduction to the series and I loved it. It was only in the last year or so that I finally invested time to play Metroid, Metroid 2, and Super Metroid. They're all fantastic as well, with Metroid being the hardest. Thank fucking God for the ability to rewind on the Nintendo Online, or else I would have rage quit and never finished it. Yeah, I admittedly had to use a little bit of rewind in some save states as well. You're going to hear about it. This one, I think this is acceptable. Feel free to cheat. This game will destroy you. This game cheats, so you should fucking cheat. Blade said, iconic for all the right reasons, hard and confusing for all the wrong ones, but I will always love the series, so unique amongst all of the Big N's other offerings. I actually agree with that. I don't even have anything to add to that. I just think that was very well said, Blade. I agree with you. And finally, Max Power wrote in and said, finally, thank you, Adam. This is the game that made me love gaming. Well, this and The Legend of Zelda. I spent hours as a kid drawing maps, searching for any energy tanks. I never found this game that tough, other than the mother brain fight and those stupid Rinkas, fire rings that slow the game down and hurt. I play this game at least twice a year, once in under 3 hours so I can play with Samus out of the suit, and then once in under an hour just to see I can. Although the soundtrack is not great, it is solid. Kraid's theme is the exception, is absolutely phenomenal and as good as any Nintendo tune. I love this game, a personal top 10 game for me of all time. Fair enough. I think it's too hard, but I will say I think everyone that grew up with an NES has a hard NES game that they're good at. Like I can beat Ninja Turtles and I can beat Marvel vs. the Space Mutants, and I take my dick out and brag about it every chance I get. So if I could beat this game easily, fuck yeah, I'd be bragging about it. So I like it. Well done, Max Power. And let's get into it. That's enough time. I've wasted 30 minutes. Let's get into Metroid. That's why you kids are here. I am going to cue up some music. And when it stops, my buddy Daniel and I are going to talk about the original Metroid, which originally released in North America on the NES on August 15th, 1987. 35 years ago. Holy fuck. This has to be one of the oldest games we've ever covered. Enjoy the podcast, everybody. Let's go. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationships strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit betterhelp.com/rememberthegame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. Okay, joining me via the blank phone this week, returning to the show, frequent guest, longtime friend of mine, one of the infamous Bebop and Rocksteady of our Discord. It is my friend Daniel. How's it hanging, buddy? What's new and exciting?
It's pretty good, buddy. It's all going pretty good here. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm doing good. You know what? I'm excited for this episode because, first of all, it's Metroid. And maybe not everyone that's listening to this has played Metroid, but everybody knows Metroid. And this is one of those games that, like, I'll ask you this. Let's start the show with this, dude. Is there an NES game that you've never played that, like, because you're my age, like, you've been playing the NES for a long time. Is there an NES game that you're like, I gotta, like, this was one of two. This one and Kid Icarus are the two NES games I've never played that I feel were just gaping holes on my resume. Is there a game like that for you on the NES?
I was gonna say Kid Icarus as well. Everything else, I'm like, yeah, nope. I can't think of any of those big games that I really need to go back and play. But this was always a glaring hole. So
Metroid. Now, okay, so that's okay. First of all, Kid Icarus. All right, so and for all of you listening that have been on me to play Kid Icarus, I have no idea when I'm going to play that, but I promise at some point I'll get to Kid Icarus. This was one that, like, I've tried this game like 8 times. I have tried the original because I love Super Metroid, and now I've gotten into the other Metroids. I like them. I've never met a Metroid I don't like. So I was like, I gotta fucking see where this thing started. And I've tried this game like 5 times and gave up in the first like 20 minutes. And then over my holidays in July, I finally sat down and played it. Now, I got lots to say, and I know you have lots to say, but you're like the biggest Metroid fan I know. So, like, had you ever played this through to the end until now?
Nope.
Wow.
Same too. I've tried playing it off and on here. I never had it. I didn't know anybody who had it when I was a kid. So it wasn't even until probably the Virtual Console maybe that I ever actually got around to trying it. But I couldn't get 10 minutes into it.
Right?
And
dude, it's like, and listen, I understand. I'm looking right now. This game released in North America on August 15th, 1987. 87. This is a 35-year-old game. So I understand that it is a little bit unfair to compare it to, say, Metroid Dread. Or I understand, and I'm not going to, and I'm not going to, like, it's NES hard. That's like a thing. NES hard. It is. But let me just say, if you, listen, if somebody was new to Mario and they asked me where should I start, I would probably say start with Super Mario Brothers. You may not love it, but it's still fully playable today. It's a great game. Start with Super Mario Brothers. If someone asks you, hey, I want to start the Metroid franchise, I've never played a Metroid game, where should I start? I know what you're going to say, but where would you tell them to start if they were playing Metroid for the first time?
Super Metroid.
Of course, Super Metroid. Dude.
Yeah.
This game, oh my God, this is one of the toughest games I have ever played. Particularly, certainly on the NES, but I just think overall, I don't understand. Like, Super Metroid is not easy, but Super Metroid is totally beatable. This game, I was saying it off air before we started. I got messages from people while I was playing this for the podcast that were like, hey, I beat that game as a kid. I don't mean to offend anybody, and I know some of you are going to argue with me, but if you beat this game without the internet, without walkthroughs, I don't believe you. If you tell me you did that, I'm sorry. I don't believe you. Without at least a map, I don't believe you. Is that wrong?
No, this is a game you had as a kid. You played lots, but you didn't beat it until you were, several years older. And you're like, yeah, I remember enjoying that. I'm going to try it again. And, like, I know you were like this as a kid, and I was too. I used to draw maps for games and things like that. I don't care how much you like to draw a map for this game. You weren't.
Even
that's
even with a map, there's so many hidden places to go and stuff. And this game, like, it will kill you so fast. It's incredible how quickly things go off the rails with this game. And like, you and I both grew up in the NES era. I have NES games. Bart versus the Space Mutants is always the one I go to. Like, that's a tough game, but I played it over and over and over and over and over as a kid till I got good enough to be able to beat it. And I can still beat it. Like, I got that, and I The Legend of Zelda for the NES. That's a tough game, but I can see how you can play it over and over and over and be obsessed with it, and you could beat it, because that game will kill you every 3 minutes. This game, if I had owned this game as a child, I would have constantly played it just because I think it's cool. But like, there's no way. I'm better at games now than I was as a kid, and I was like, all it takes is like one missed jump or something, and you're done. It kills you so fast. It's insane.
It's fucking bullshit. It has so many of those bullshit, and it's not. You can learn the same, because there's the cases where it's adjusting the frame because you move forward, and all of a sudden now there's 5 guys that you can't blow up because you're already in the middle of something.
Oh, dude, it's fucking. So like, okay, obviously, I don't really think we need to do much to explain what the game is. If you've never played it, it's the first Metroid game. It's Samus. It's a Metroidvania. Everybody knows exactly what this game is. You hike around this giant map, slowly finding new abilities. The new abilities give you the ability to get into other areas and blah blah blah. Like, it's Metroid. Everybody knows what Metroid is. And I want to get the bad out of the way so that we can focus on the good. Because I want to say this. I know that you and I are going to shit on this game and shit on some stuff, but like, and I know you're the same as me. I respect gaming heritage, and I respect what this game did for the Metroid franchise and for Metroidvania, and like, totally. I respect this game. I never want to fucking play this game again. Like, ever. I respect the shit out of it. But like, there's so many iconic Nintendo franchises that started on the NES. You got Mario, you got Zelda, you got Kirby, you got, Punch-Out, the list goes on and on. None of them are remotely as difficult as this one is, in my opinion. Maybe Punch-Out. But
yeah, Soda Popinski's not in this one. So.
Wow, fuck. And you know what? If he was, he'd beat you in one fucking hit. So, so we should talk about the stuff we don't like, and then we can get into the good. So, like, there's one giant thing that stands out to me that I want to bitch about, but I've been rambling a lot, so I'll shut the fuck up. Daniel, what about this game don't you like?
All right. Before I get into that, I want to ask, how did you play this on the Nintendo Online, or did you play this on some other way?
No, on my Switch, on Nintendo Online.
Okay, because I'm curious. I wanted to ask somebody who's played it on the original Nintendo. I ran into a whole lot of issues in this where, like, you'd land in lava or something, and you'd be, like, stuck on a pixel, and you wouldn't be able to get out.
Yeah.
Like, that was the biggest thing, and that happened all the time.
Yeah, I got stuck. I got stuck a few times, too.
An emulation issue, or if that was actually the case in the game. Like, that was one of the biggest fucking annoying things. And I finally broke down. I ended up having to use a rewind, because I'm like, I'm not replaying 3 hours of this because I got stuck on a fucking pixel.
No, me too. Same thing. And like, because I did get stuck a few times as well. And I did find that, like, if you fell in the lava, not only is the lava hurting you, but then the never-ending spawns of enemies are fucking hurting you. And then even if you're not stuck, the jumping out is very inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I don't
it doesn't have the fluid controls that later games in the series, like, and it's one of the issues I had with Super Metroid 2 is there's no consistency in the jump. Like, sometimes you push the button and you do the spin jump, and sometimes you don't, and it's inconsistent, and it's throughout the whole game. And I tried doing testing, like is it like you have to hold it and be moving first. And I'm like, I'd do the same thing and I'd get 3 different results.
Yeah, like if there's a pattern to it, I don't know what it is. It's like, you know what, the jumping, when you fell in the lava, you know, like, you know when you play like a Mario game and you try to jump out of water, and sometimes you get a high jump and sometimes you don't? And like, I assume it has something to do with where you push jump. That's what this game feels like, but you never have to swim. You're always just standing on the ground in the lava. But for some reason, sometimes she jumps and sometimes she doesn't. And it's so impossible to plan your jump based around where the enemies are coming from, because you never know if you're going to go high or low. And then when you don't go high, you get knocked down back. It just, that's what I was saying. Like, one bad jump and you're fucked. Like, there's no hope. It's over. So no, I found that as well on the Switch. I did find that as well.
That was my biggest thing, is there was a lot of issues like that, and maybe they were emulation things and not in the original. The enemies, frustratingly, one, the fact that everything takes off like half your health.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous. I'm like, the first enemy of the game should not be able to kill you.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, fuck. No, you're right. This game will fuck you, dude, until you find that first E-Tank. So at least by yourself. And even the first, like, literally the first E-Tank is just, I don't even feel like the first E-Tank keeps you alive. It just delays your death. Like, you need 2 or 3 before maybe you have a chance of getting away once you get in trouble. But the first one at least delays it. That kind of ties into, like, my biggest gripe with this game is when you die, it'll respawn you, like, to its credit. Like, I think you have infinite continues at least. But the problem is when you die, you start out with 30 health and all your E-Tanks are empty. Every time. And so you make... If it's not starting somewhere where there's, like, one of those enemy things that you can regenerate, then you're hooped. Yeah, because there's like all these pipes that keep spitting out easy to kill enemies, and they're a great way to farm health. But even then, bro, when you get near the end of the game and you have 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever amount of E-Tanks, and you die and you have 30 health and 8 empty E-Tanks, it can take like 15 minutes of standing there to grind to get enough health. And then again, you're probably just going to die and lose it again. Like, I'm not even ashamed to say it. I use save states. Once I got, like, when I would get to an area where I would fill up all my health, I would save state. Because I'd be like, at least if I die, I can just come back to here and avoid the 15-minute grind to fill up all my health again. And unlike Super Metroid, where there's the save points and you go in and they fill up all your health, there's literally... I understand this game doesn't have battery saves, and I'm not even going to really get mad at it for that because it's 1987. I can live with that. But the fact that this game has nowhere... What's that?
I think the Japanese version had battery saves.
Yeah, I think it did too. I think you might be right, actually. But like, I won't bitch at that for that. I can live with passwords, even though the password system's obnoxious. I can live with passwords. And playing it on the Switch, fortunately, eliminates that because you can save anytime you want. That's great. But the fact that there's nowhere, not one place in this game where you can go and just fill your health is ridiculous. And fuck me, like that, that breaks that, like, and I know that other games don't have that, but like at least Zelda, no, other games do have that. Like Zelda, at least I could go to a ferry and get my health filled up or something. Like there should have been at least one spot in this game where I could just go get my health back instead of having to grind. And then when you're grinding, if you make one mistake, you get knocked into the lava and now all the grinding is for naught. Dude, that happened to me so many times. I got so mad. Fuck me. So that by far was my biggest complaint. Like obviously we're both just circling around the difficulty, but to me it was like the tedious grinding to fill my fucking health up was so obnoxious.
The glitches and the stupid shit, like the lava aside, like the difficulty of the game, like it was just the product of the time. Nintendo games were, I mean, this game, if it weren't that hard, you could beat this game in 3 hours. This would be a game that you get for Christmas and you'd have it beat by lunch.
Totally. And I'll give it that. Agreed. Like people talk about NES hard all the time. I've always said, like, I think there are some NES games that are hard because they suck and they're poorly made. And I think there are NES games that are hard because, like you said, they're fucking 90 minutes long, and they don't want parents, going back to Toys R Us and being like, I got ripped off. Like my kid beat this afternoon. I mean, that said, I do think maybe they went a little too far with this one, with that difficulty. But I do agree. Like, the difficulty is a clear method of extending the length of the game. It's just like the fucking grinding health. Sorry to go back to it, but fuck me. When you go back to grinding the fucking health, you pick up one of those little health pellets and you get like 15 or whatever the fuck it is. You get hit by one of those flying things that you're grinding to get health pellets, and you lose like 40. It's one step forward, 3 steps back.
You lose 20 from those things.
Yeah, like you lose more than you gain. And so it's like, fuck me, you make one mistake, and now that's 3 more pellets I have to get just to get back to where the fuck I was.
Yeah. You don't get one from, it's not like later games where you get something from every single enemy. You only get something from like 1 out of 4 enemies.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking, oh my God. It was fucking vicious. So I hated that. Another thing I wanted to ask you, because you told me before we started recording, you looked up a map. I did the same. I tried my damnedest, man. I fought looking up a map for this game tooth and nail, but finally was like, I'm either looking up a map or I'm not beating this. There is some stuff in this game. Like, you remember the part in Super Metroid where you have to blow up the glass tunnel?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that the one part where somebody had to tell you, like, at no point were you figuring that out on your own.
Totally. And I know in Metroid, like, I know you love Metroid. I loved Metroid Dread. That was my game of the year last year. I know you liked Metroid Dread a lot as well. But some people, I heard it from listeners. There were some people that complained and said they just found it too difficult to figure out where the fuck do I have to go. I need to find one little block that can be blown up that I can fall through. I understand that. Like, I'm not even going to disagree with you. It's a little bit obnoxious. I totally get it. But there's shit in this game. Like, I was stuck, and I went through every fucking area I could find. And you don't have any maps in this game like you do in, like, Metroid Dread. And I was stuck. And then I finally looked it up, and it was, like, one hidden corner, something that doesn't even blow. Like, it's so cryptic that I was like, how on earth did anyone beat this? Like, back in the day, how did anyone find this? I don't get it.
Oh, it's like there's spots where you have to open the door and then bomb the brick right in front of it without going through the door.
Yeah. And again, you got to remember, like, if you've never played this game and you're like, well, that just sounds like standard Metroid. It's not, because not only are you trying to find these obnoxiously hidden fucking exits and stuff, but, like, again, if you make one mistake, because you don't know where you're looking, and if you make one mistake, there's no save point for you to go to fill your health and missiles back up and, like, hit reset and be like, okay, I tried the left, that didn't work, I'm going to try going up now. You're starting from scratch because you're probably going to die and then have to grind all your health back again. I love difficult games, and there are hard games on the NES, Battletoads, Bart vs. the Space Mutants, Contra, the original Ninja Turtles. I like some of those games, but this one, like, it went too far. This one I like Hot Wings, but this one is too spicy. I'm like, I can't do that again. I can't put my body through this game again. It's too much.
You either need to make the game difficult or you make it hard to get around. You can't do both.
Oh,
this game does.
Yes.
That's one of the issues. Like, if this game were half the difficulty, but, you know, there's no map and you still got to try and figure out, I'm like, it would be fine. If this game, even if it had just the map you reveal as you go along, like, which is what you get in most of the later games, you know, but it was as hard. I'm like, yeah, because at least I can look at the map and be like, okay, well, I'm not going back in that room again. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of dead ends, and, like, there are half this map you'd have no reason to go into.
Totally. Yeah, agreed. Oh God, it was fucking. So I will say that, like, if you're listening to this, if you've never played Metroid on the NES, I'm begging you, play it somewhere where you have save states, and do not give it a chance. Try to go as far as you can without looking up a map. But when you get to the point where you're stuck, don't be proud. Look up a fucking map. You will enjoy it so much more if you just. I personally, like, because I want to start shifting towards some of the stuff I actually like, but, like, I legitimately just enjoyed the game better once I looked up a map. It was just more. Yeah. I wasn't as frustrated anymore. You know.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, you don't have to look up a guide. It doesn't have to say go here and then go here and then go here. Just have a map, and then you can be like, okay, well, you know, this room leads to that area, which is where I know I need to go. So now I know how to get there. Like, that's all you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, on that note, another thing that drove me fucking bananas was, and this might have just been, I don't want to fault the game for this, because this is, like, we got to, like, for all the things we're complaining about, Daniel and I are both fully aware, like, this game kind of blazed some trails. I get that the first, it's uncharted territory. It's not going to be silky smooth. When we score it at the end, like, I know, but I can't speak for you, Daniel, but, like, I'm going to give it a lot of leeway because it was the first one. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I understand all that. But another thing that drove me crazy about this game was there was 2 different weapons you could get for Samus's arm. You could get an ice beam, or you could get like a wavy beam. I got myself trapped, and you can't switch on the fly. You can't hit select. When you hit select, you go to rockets.
I could find the station to switch at them.
Yes. And I was like, why can't select just go through, like, this is my regular buster, my rockets, my wavy, my ice. Like, you get stuck, and you need, like, for example, you need the ice beam to freeze those. They're like, they look like flying slugs, and you can, like, freeze them in place and then jump on them to climb up. But, like, I don't have the ice beam. I have the wave beam. And so now I need to figure out where the ice beam was in this game, go all the way back to the statue that's holding the ball with the ice beam in it to get it, then find my way back to these slugs to climb up. And then sometimes you do all that and then find out that wasn't even what you had to do. And it's like, oh my motherfucker. Fuck. Did that happen to you, or is that just me? Like, I got trapped. I had to, fuck.
Honestly, there is no point to I realized it because I played through this game a few times, and there's no point to the wave beam. There are 2, it makes it a bit easier to kill the 2 bosses.
Mm-hmm.
But like, the number of times you'd be fucked if you didn't have the ice beam, it just wasn't worth it.
No, dude, it was fucking like, or you know what option B would have been? Just make it a wavy ice beam.
Yeah.
And then switch to rockets. And my gun just goes from a wave beam to a wavy ice beam. Because you're right. I actually, because you have to fight those 2 mini bosses, and I can't remember which one. One of them fucked me up until I went and got the wave beam, and then I could finally win it. The other one I beat by just kamikazeing rockets and just killing it before it killed me. But you're right. Outside of fighting the bosses, the wave beam is useless. Fuck, it made me so mad. I got soft locked, and I was just like, so have you ever had this? Maybe you had this play in this game. When you come to the slow realization of what you have to do, and you're like, I fought it tooth and I was like, I knew I was going to have to go back and get the ice beam, but then I'm like, there's got to be some way where I don't have to do this. And then it finally hit me that was my only choice. And I was like, if it wasn't for the Remember the Game, I'd give up. Like, I'd be like, I'm fucking done. I'm not even having fun anymore. Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you, Metroid. Fuck me. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've got anything else to complain about. It's just really hard. The passwords suck, but you can get by that with save states too. Yeah.
The password does, but I mean, like, if you want to have fun, go and look up the password generator, and like, you can pick and choose things.
Yeah.
And you can definitely have some fun with it that way.
You know what else? This isn't really a complaint, but the screw attack is in the game, but it's like totally hidden, and I never would have found it without the map, and you don't need it to beat the game. But once you get, and if you've never played a Metroid game, screw attack is when you jump, Samus goes into like a flippy ball, and like she becomes like electric, and she's like a weapon, and it's awesome. I don't know if you felt this way. Once I got my hands on the screw attack thing, it was the first and only time I finally felt like it was a fair fight between me and this game.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that one. It's you can also get it really, like, I mean, assuming you have a guide or a map, you can get it pretty quick.
Yeah, I wish I'd fucking realized that earlier, because I didn't know that forever. It was the last item I got was the fucking screw attack thing. But it's like, you're right. I'm like, if it's that, like, if it's like the only equalizer in the game, it's great that it's available early, but I wish that it was more discoverable. Because,
Yeah.
like, like, because it's great that it's there, and it really does. I don't think it makes the playing field even, but level, but it comes close.
Yeah.
And my God, dude, like once I got it, I wasn't even shooting my gun anymore. I was jumping into every fucking enemy I found just out of spite. I was like, I owe you all this, you motherfuckers. Oh my God.
The only annoying thing is those flying beetle things that you have to freeze and step on. Some of them you can kill with the screw attack, so you have to be careful when you're doing it that you don't accidentally turn into the screw attack ball.
Yeah.
Because then you wipe out your platform and then you fall all the way down and you got to do it all over.
Ah, yes, I forgot about that. It was like walking on eggshells. Like, so like again, we already explained. Yeah, you freeze these slugs and they just fly in the air, and then they turn into like momentary platforms that you can climb up to get to the top of an area. But yeah, once you have screw attack, you kill them all if you jump too hard and go into like a flip. So it's almost like I'm trying to think of like it's like, like when you walk across like frozen water and it's not totally frozen and you're trying to like gently walk across it without cracking the ice and falling. Like that's what it felt like jumping on these beetles. It was like, and then you're right, you get to like the top one and then she would turn into that fucking screw attack and you'd be like, no, and it would kill like 8 of fuck you. Because once you're in the screw attack, you can't get out till you hit the ground. So then you're falling and just trying not to hit the rest of the fucking, God damn it, this game. As I talk about, like, I'm sweating right now because this fucking, it's just reminding me of the pain that this, like, I was supposed to be on like a nice, relaxing vacation while I was playing this. And I was just Shaylee was like, why are you playing that? And I was like, because it's relaxing. Shut up. And I was getting so mad at this fucking game. Fuck me. I mean, that said, I think I'm done bitching. There's just some stuff I really like. If you got any other bitches, because by all means.
No. This has the same floaty Samus, but it works for this one. Whereas it was an issue minus the inconsistency with the jumps.
Yeah.
But I feel like it works better in this than like Super Metroid is the same thing. It's got the floaty jumps, but it's irritating there. Whereas this one, for the most part, barring the accidental screw attack things, it works really well.
Agreed.
Like that's a minor nitpick, and I can see somebody freaking out about that. But like I said, I found it actually worked pretty good for this one.
Agreed. That's a great point. I never even thought of that. Like, so there's a lot of areas in this game where you'll go into a room and the lava's on the bottom or whatever the fuck it is, and then there'll be a whole bunch of like those narrow pillars, like those single column pillars, and you've got to jump from one to another. And to its credit, it's very. If you're a decent platformer, like gamer, like platformer player, is that what you'd be called? Platformer player? If you're good at platforming, those jumps are very makeable because Samus's jump is OP as fuck. Like she'll jump to the top of the screen and you can move her left and right, wherever the fuck you want on a dime. Where you get knocked into the lava is the never-ending waves of enemies that hit you and bump you back. That's where I was getting knocked into the fucking lava. But I agree with you. Like the actual jumping in this game is superb. Frankly, I think the controls by and large, I think it actually controls really tight. Minus the jumping out of lava again.
Well, yes. Like I said, minus some of the cheap aspects of the design, the level design, but the actual controls are pretty spot on. Yeah,
they are.
That's a Nintendo game.
Yeah. And agreed. And like, I would like to say too, like, for all of the complaints we've had about the difficulty and this fucking annoying to use map and the non-respawning health and all this kind of stuff, like, for a first attempt at a franchise and arguably as a genre, I mean, I don't want to get into arguments with everybody. There might be some Atari games or something that had some Metroidvania elements to them, but like, I think most people would agree if this isn't the first Metroidvania, like it's up there. I think that everyone involved deserves a lot of credit because like this is a very ambitious game for 1987.
It is, and honestly, I'm like assuming this is what they were going for. I think they pulled it off.
I do too. Yeah, like I've never designed a video game. Certainly not a Metroid. Actually, I did build one Metroidvania game in Mario Maker once, and it fucking sucked. So I can say I've built a Metroidvania. That cannot be an easy. Like, I've always thought that. Like, I know you're a big Metroid fan, and like you've played other Metroidvanias, right? Like Ori or Hollow Knight or Guacamelee or whatever.
Yeah, it's my favorite genre of games.
They're top 3 for me with platforming and tactical game. Like, I love these games. I've always thought, like, I can't even imagine the planning that must go into designing an overworld for one of these games where it's not, you can't break it somewhere. And you can't get soft locked in somewhere because there's so many parts that are accessible, but only accessible with certain items. And you got to make sure that you can't use the wrong item to get into an area, and then you're trapped in there for like. And I understand that, you know, the Metroidvanias have become substantially more complex than this one is, but this was the first one. And I can't even imagine how difficult it must have been for them to sit down and figure out a way to design this overworld and not let the player get themselves trapped somehow. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it deserves a lot of credit for that. This is a really ambitious video game.
Yeah, no, I think they set out to definitely do something different, and they succeeded on all fronts for that one.
100%. If I'd had this game as a kid, I know I would have loved it, even though I know I never would have beat it. I would have just had fun running around and exploring.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to point out too is I've always said that I think the best looking game on the NES is maybe Kirby's Adventure or maybe Mega Man 6. And those are games that came out right toward the tail end of the NES. And while this game certainly doesn't stack up to them, like, this is I mean, the backgrounds are ugly because it's just a lot of black. Like, you've got the ceiling or whatever and the floor, but like you can't see like mountains or caves or anything in the background. It's just black. But I actually was considering how an early NES game this is. Like, I thought it was a really good looking video game too.
Yeah, no, honestly, the only sprite I can think of that I didn't like was Samus herself. I didn't for that. Like, it looks kind of janky, but like all the enemy designs, the level designs, the graphics in this look good, and there's like the subtle things, like when you're in leading up to the mini boss things where you've got the spikes, so it looks like you're going into it's a giant mouth. Yeah, it does a lot of really clever things with the simplicity of the graphics.
Yeah, I was really impressed, like, with how well it looked. I know that we've already hammered about the falling into the fucking lava and how much that fucks you around, but other than that, like, it happened occasionally, but I didn't run into a ton of lag and stutter either. Like, a little bit, but by NES standards, like, it ran really smooth.
Yeah, no, a few spots, like where the Mother Brain fight, where there's 7,000 things on the screen at once, is about the only piece where I'd consistently get anything.
And on that note, I want to just say, I usually hate final bosses. I did not hate that Mother Brain fight. I actually thought it was. Yeah. I thought that the two fights against Ridley and Kraid. I thought those fights were pretty mediocre. They were basically just bullets. Like, they were kind of boring. But I actually really liked the Mother Brain fight.
It's definitely a lot easier. I didn't realize that like when you break down each of those energy walls, they stay down, so you can actually break one and then go back to the previous room and restock with the Metroids.
Oh, really?
The Metroids are the best way to restock.
Fuck, I didn't know that. I got killed on that Mother Brain fight so many times, but I didn't realize you could, like, break it down piece by piece and then go fill up and come back. God damn it.
Yeah, you can actually, have all 5 of the barriers down and then go, because the Metroids, as long as you don't, run and get swarmed by them, you freeze them, you blow them up with the 5 missiles, but they give you a shit ton of life and or missiles, so like you can restock in no time.
Oh, son of a bitch.
For the Mother Brain fight.
I was going to say, I'll remember that for the next time I play it, but I'm never fucking playing it again. But I will remember that for, I don't know why I'll fucking remember that, but I will. I didn't know. And I also, I like that Mother Brain fight. And then I love that you have the escape sequence afterwards where you have to get out before it explodes.
Yeah. And I mean, like when I had that, I'm like, well, this is pretty standard. Like, but it wasn't standard. I can't think of a game that came out before this that had that.
Me neither. I know it's like a tradition now, but you're right. Like, I don't remember another game like that. Yeah. I loved that. I loved the whole ending of the game. I thought it was really cool. I love the big twist at the end. We all know now that Samus is a woman. But like
Yeah.
in 1987, like I is fuck no, never mind, because someone's gonna be like Miss Pac-Man, but like maybe this isn't the first game that stars a female protagonist, but it's one of.
It's one of, and I think one of the most famous ones. And I mean, like they decided it early on, but they purposely made it misleading. Like the instruction booklet says he in a few spots.
Yeah. Now that said, I'm giving them credit for using a female protagonist, but I'm giving them partial credit because I get that it's like a twist, but I guess it like I don't know. Never like I don't mean this disrespectfully toward any of our female listeners or women or anything, but like in 1987, it wasn't nearly as predominant as it is today to be like give like now you see lots of games with lead female protagonist and it's awesome, right? Like, but like it wasn't as big of thing in 1987. So I don't know if it would have made a big difference to put it on the cover and be like, oh, look, it's a female. So I guess I was going to be like, they put it in there, but they also hit it really well. But I don't really know if it would have made a difference in 1987, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no.
But I do love it. I love Samus. Like, I even like playing her as her in Smash Brothers, even though I fucking suck at Smash Brothers.
Yeah, no, she's usually one of my go-to characters.
Yeah. Like she's just such a badass. I just love her. I like the other thing I got a kick out of, and actually I'm curious what you think because you're a much bigger Metroid fan than I am. I like Metroid, but I know you're a bigger Metroid fan than I am. It was really cool just seeing where the series started.
Yeah, and like that was like this was one of my secret games. Is that as much as I love the series and I played all of them, including Other M, like I had never played this one, so it was definitely nice to revisit where it all began, and you can definitely see where the building blocks for the later games came from.
Yeah, like I can't think of another franchise that I really like, but I've never played the first one of. You know what I mean? Like I'm thinking like Mega Man, Mario, Zelda, Punch-Out, Mario Kart, Sonic. Like I can think of so many franchises where I played the first one, and this is one of those ones where I'm like, I really like the Metroid games that I've played. I think Super Metroid is almost perfect. Like it's almost the perfect video game.
Yeah.
But
one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But I'd never seen where it started, so I'm like, I don't have a ton of urge to play this again. But like, and I'm sure you feel the same way. And this like in this weird way, I have this sense of like. I feel like I've crossed, like I've filled a hole in my gaming life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just a weird fucking, it's just like I can go back and play Mario and I can go back and play Zelda and I can go back and play almost all like Kirby and Mega Man and all those. Like, I don't know if I can go back to this one. And on that note, I mean, my favorite thing about the Super Nintendo is that it takes so many of my favorite NES franchises and pumps them full of steroids and makes them better. And I would argue there's not an NES to SNES franchise that made a bigger jump in quality and playability and enjoyability than Metroid did.
I agree with you. Like everything about Super Metroid, like aside from the fact that if you took out the baby Metroid, which is because it takes place after Metroid 2, it's almost just a remake of this one. I mean, you're playing in the same world. Early on in the Metroid game, you go through the original where you fight Mother Brain in the original game.
Yeah.
It's like a remake improvement of the original Metroid. It does everything this game does. Super Metroid also does, and does a little bit better.
Yeah, like I can't think of another main Nintendo franchise. Not even a Nintendo franchise, but like a franchise that was on the NES and then made the leap to Super Nintendo. Because it's not just the Marios and the Zeldas and the Kirbys, but like Contra. Contra, Castlevania. Like there's so many that were NES games and SNES games where I would be like, if you're new to the franchise, start with the NES ones. Just play them. They're great games. This is maybe the only one where I would be like, unless you feel the need to be like a completionist and see where it started, I'd be like, you can skip this one. And I'm on the Wikipedia page right now, and it says Nintendo Power ranked Metroid 11th on their list of best games for a Nintendo console. It was ranked 7th by Game Informer and 69th by Electronic Gaming Monthly on their top 100 games lists. I gotta say, dude, like, I'm curious what you think. I've played a lot of NES games, and I respect the shit out of what this game did. This game is not even getting a sniff at my top 20 NES games list.
No. I mean, I can't remember a lot of Nintendo games, which is part of the issue. But no, like, I mean, I love the series and I love everything that came after. But this game itself is not quite that high. Like, as much as I love it, and there's a few things that I want to get into that in particular that I love. But it's at the time it came out, it really wasn't anything special. Like, everything special about this came after.
Yeah. It's like they just picked they went into it like and just picked out all the best elements, and then, like, frankly, I mean, I don't know how well this game sold. I'm just looking right here. Reception. Metroid was a commercial success, reported to be famous and very popular by 1989. Okay, so it must have sold well, but like, I feel like Nintendo, dude, God only knows, everyone listening to this, Nintendo lets franchises die. We all know, like, where the fuck is F-Zero? Like, Nintendo will not hesitate to let a franchise die if they don't think it's worth bringing back. Thank fuck they made Super Metroid, because I mean, I frankly didn't realize this game had sold as well as it did. But, like, I could have seen them being like, no, nobody could beat it. We're not making another one. Everybody thought it was too hard. You know what I mean? Like, this could have died on the vine. I'm glad that they kept going back to it. So,
well, and the fact that, like, they made Super Metroid, and that's the third game. Like, there's a Metroid 2 that even fewer people had heard of than this one.
Yeah, I've certainly. Is it any good? I've never played. That's the Game Boy one, right?
That's Game Boy one. I really like it. It does a lot of the things that this one does. It gave us the shoulder pads for the various suits.
Oh, nice.
Because you couldn't differentiate because of color, because Game Boy.
Right. Yeah.
So So there's definitely things that I really like it. I definitely say check it out at some point.
Yeah, I will.
But,
Metroid seems like it'd be right at home on a Game Boy too, like exploring and everything. Yeah. It feels like it'd be a good fit.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, like, I feel like I've blown my load. I don't know what else I have to say about this game. You said there's a couple things about it you love that you wanted to. What else? Like, what do you got? Like, what have we missed?
The music and the atmosphere.
Oh, the music.
I cannot think of another another Nintendo game that was better at setting an atmosphere than this one.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, that's iconic for Metroid games. But it's like, we talked about how the backgrounds were all black, but you throw in the right music and honestly, even just the sound effects, like the creatures all have like the screeches and things, even in bad 8-bit audio, or whatever the 8-bit equivalent of the audio is.
Yeah.
It sound alien and creepy, and it really works.
Yeah. Dude, I never thought of that, but you're right. The atmosphere, like obviously you're going deeper and deeper into this cave and like exploring this or whatever you want to call it. And it does feel like that. Like every time I found an elevator, whatever thing to take me down, like you would get that sense of just like, oh fuck. I'm like, am I going into somewhere that's too powerful for me? Like what's waiting for me down there? And you feel like you're just slowly going like deeper and deeper and deeper. And you're right. It is kind of, it's going to sound stupid considering it's an NES. Like it almost has hints of like a claustrophobic feeling.
It really does.
In a good way, in a great fucking way. I never even thought of that. You're right. I never even thought of that.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I like a lot of Nintendo games, but I can't think of anything that set a tone or set an atmosphere better than this one did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you that. And then you're right. The music you'll have already heard some of the music. Everybody listen to this episode. The music fucking slaps. And I correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a couple of months and maybe I'm just having a brain fart, but like when you pick up an item in this game, it plays that classic like da na 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 na, like it's just a very like chiptune version of it, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. That
and Zelda opening a chest, or like Just
Yes.
two of the iconic I got something. They run through my head anytime I pick up anything in real life.
Yeah, I love that sound of. And actually, just quickly, at the very beginning of this game, when it first starts, you're stuck between those two pillars, and if you go to the right side of the screen, or to go to your right or whatever, you carry on with the game. If you go to the left, right away the morph ball ability is there. And I gotta say, man, when I picked that up, I was like, because that's like, listen, the morph ball is up there with the mushroom from Mario as like one of the more iconic abilities / power-ups you can get in video games. And it just put a smile on my face to get that morph ball in the first like 2 seconds. You don't get the bombs fucking forever. Oh, and that pissed me off because those stupid fucking pokey head guys that walk along the ground. And until you get the bomb, you can't hit them unless you can find a way to get below them or let them get above you. Like you can't duck and shoot.
You can't duck and shoot in this game. The wave beam theoretically can hit them, but of course the wave beam is a pain in the ass to find, and we already covered it's kind of pointless.
Yeah. You have the bombs before you get the wave beam.
Yeah.
But I fucking hated those. I hated those little fuckers so much because give me those fucking weird looking bat dragon things that fall down from the ceiling. At least I can shoot them. Those little slow moving spiky haired guys are like, imagine Goombas in Mario, but you can't ever touch them. Like you can't they're just so, I guess that's what the spiky things that Lakitu throws out are. But like so goddamn annoying. They pissed me off so much sometimes. Anyways.
Yeah. So that one, and then I think I mentioned it earlier, but just the character and the design and the sprite design, I think was like that was pushing what you could manage to get through with 8-bit graphics on everything other than Samus.
Yes, for some reason you're right. Like, and I mean, to be fair, like it was their first time with Samus, so maybe they were just like, well, that's what we want her to look like. But like, I'm looking at the box art to this game right now, and like Samus just looks like she's wearing like a yellow scuba suit with red knee pads, and then like a motocross helmet.
Yeah,
and you're right. The no shoulder pads make all the difference. Like those giant shoulder pads are so badass. They add so much. But you're right. Every enemy looks so dope, and then Samus just looks kind of crappy.
Yeah,
and
I mean, it's weird to me as someone who's played all the Metroid games to see Kraid so small, but he still looks exactly the same. He's still the pot belly spikes coming out of his, for some reason, like that. Ridley looks like the space pterodactyl dragon that he is.
Yeah.
Mother Brain looks fucking amazing.
Yeah, Mother Brain looks fucking rad.
One of the best character designs in a Nintendo game ever. And I will fight anyone for those other.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm a complete, like, I've said it on the show 100 times. Like, I almost have like a fetish for pixel art. Like, I love the way it looks so much. But you're right. Yeah, everything looks great except Samus. For some, whatever, doesn't matter. But you're right. She looks kind of shitty. Fuck, man. I feel like we've literally covered like every square inch of this fucking game.
So I'm curious. I think I know the answer. You haven't played the Game Boy Advance remake, Zero Mission, up for this, right?
I have not. No. Is it good?
Okay. Yeah, it is. It came out either a little bit before, a little bit after Fusion. It was made by the same team.
Oh.
Aside from it's a retelling of this game, but it's not the same map or anything. That's definitely. If you want to get the story of this game and not play this game, go for that one.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like, admittedly, my experience with Metroid is minimal. Like, I've played Super Metroid 100 times. Now I've played this one. I played Metroid Fusion, which was fucking fire. I played Metroid Dread, which was one of my favorite games on the Switch.
Yeah.
And then I've played about half of Metroid Prime. I gotta go back and play Metroid Prime again. I would be shocked if I like Metroid Prime as much as I just prefer 2D to 3D,
Yeah, same here. Like, I mean, I like Metroid Prime. I love Metroid Prime 2, but they're completely different games than the 2D Metroid.
Yeah. But I'm in. Like, I'm a fan. I really want to play the second one on the Game Boy, and I really want to play Zero Mission. You know what? Just quickly, like, I don't know when this episode is going to go live, but Daniel and I are recording this about 24 hours after the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection came out. And That collection is fire, by the way. It's really, really well done. But we've been kind of like in my streams and stuff, just talking about classic series where we'd like to see these collections re-released, because like it's become such a common thing. Like just off the top of my head, like obviously there's tons of Sega collections. There's the Sonic Origins collection. There's the Cowabunga collection. There's Contra. There's Castlevania. There's so many of them. Like, how rad would a Metroid collection be?
I would love it. And I mean, if you're throwing in the Metroid Prime and Hunters or whatever that DS one was, and I don't know how well that would translate to a collection, like you could definitely get, a good 8, 9, 10 games.
Even if you just went like NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, like GBA, like even if you just went with those, like that'd be a really wild collection. Cause like, I'll ask you this, maybe the GameCube is the other answer, but like, is there like Game Boy Advance games are just lost in space right now?
They are, and I don't know why, because they're so good.
I know
so many good, and just about every genre, aside from maybe fighting games.
Like I didn't play I get a lot of shit from listeners because I don't cover more GBA games, but I didn't play a lot of GBA when it came out, and now that I'm catching up, I'm like, man, this fucking like Metroid Fusion was out. Fucking standing. You can find that episode in our archives. Daniel was actually my guest. That game is fucking fire. And I'm like, and listen, I'm really hoping that by the time this episode goes live, I would love nothing more than for Nintendo to have been like, hey, we're adding GBA games to Nintendo Switch Online. I would love that. But as of the time we're recording this, that hasn't been said. And it sucks because that console is so good. And I feel like Metroid would have been so at home on that. Like Fusion's great. I got to play the Zero Mission game. That would have been such a great play. Like Metro, again, you were talking about Metroid 2 on Game Boy. Even playing this one on the Switch, like sure, it would have been cool playing it on the NES in 1987, but like, in my opinion, Metroid just fits handheld. Like she's a handheld franchise.
Like it's a perfect game if you're sitting on a bus or train or something. Like, you can, if you got a handheld, you can pull it out, you can play it for a little bit. It's a great game when you get stuck on something. You're like, I need to put this down for 10 minutes and go and do something and then come back. And your brain has figured out how you get past that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, listen, I feel like I just feel Metroidvanias as a whole are better portable.
I'd agree.
Like I played Hollow Knight, Guacamelee, Ori, they're all great on handhelds. But Metroid, like, I will always, and I think you agree, I think most people, like, I will always consider Samus to be, like, the queen of the Metroidvania. Like, this is her genre. And,
absolutely. And, I mean, there are games that do Metroidvanias, I don't want to say better, but, like, as well, or do their own twist on them.
Yeah.
But, if you tell me there's a new Metroid game out, I'm it's
100%. Dude, like example A, dude, when they announced Metroid Dread last year out of nowhere, a 2D Metroid game, like people lost their fucking minds. Like that game did really, really well too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where the fuck that came from. So then, okay, before we score this thing, I'll just quickly, sorry everybody, I know we're kind of going on a tangent about Metroidvanias, but I'll ask you, Daniel, because I know you're a big fan of the genre as well, as you said. What's your favorite, I'll put you on the spot, what's your favorite Metroidvania?
Probably Super Metroid.
Super Metroid, fair enough.
I mean, it was the first one. It's what got me into the genre. There are lots of things that I think do it better than that, but like that's always going to be one of my go-tos. It's one of my favorite games. It's not the best game. It's not even the best in the Metroidvania, but it's definitely my favorite one.
I get that. I like. It's like I Super Mario World is my favorite platformer, even though there's better platformers. So I get that. Because I was thinking about it, like, I think I just want to sneak a plug in for it, even though I've plugged it many times. I think I might have to go with Hollow Knight. I fucking love that goddamn game.
That would be very close second. Hollow Knight is such an amazing game, and the whole atmosphere thing that we were talking about in this one, Hollow Knight does as well.
Oh, dude, imagine this Metroid. Imagine this game in the art style of Hollow Knight, like that hand-drawn art style. I'm hard. Fucking turns me on. That's good stuff. All right, we're done. I think I made it awkward with that. We should wrap this up. How the fuck do we score this thing?
You can get 250 missiles, I think, anyways.
I'll take it. I was about to say I died a million times. But so 250 is a much more reasonable scale. All right. Then the ball is in your court. What would you score Metroid for the NES out of 250?
And again, like this is thinking about it, like at the time and in the generation that came out, I'm probably leaning about 225, 230, somewhere around there. Like it was very, like even at the time, like you could see that they were onto something with this style of play.
Sure.
And I mean, I could listen to that music all day long.
Yeah, man, this
like,
is
even the original chiptune version of those themes. I could listen in the atmosphere.
Yeah, the music's fire. I don't know. I'm so torn on this one because I'm like, well, I love the genre. This game's too fucking hard, but I respect what it did for Metroidvanias. But I never want to play it again, and so I'm like, fuck. What do I don't know what the fuck. I'll probably give it like. Taking its legacy and its impact out of the equation, I'd probably give it like a 160, 170 out of 250. But once I throw in what it did, I'm getting up around that 200 mark. I have too much respect for it to give it a bad grade. But I never want to play this fucking game again in my life, ever.
Although it's fun that there's a really easy code that lets you play in the bikini, or not the bikini, the bathing suit. Right from the start of the game, and that makes it a little bit more enjoyable.
That does make it a little bit more enjoyable. But I fucking, you know how like when you play on Nintendo Switch Online, so many games have those special editions where you're halfway through the game with some powers and stuff? That's the only way I would consider going back to this game, would be to use one of those. Maybe. But even then, I'm like, I'll just play Super Metroid. I have no urge to suffer through this again.
Yeah, go play Super Metroid and rage about trying to jump off the wall.
Yeah. I have a sinking feeling that someday I'm going to record an episode the exact same as this, but about Kid Icarus. And maybe I would argue that Kid Icarus isn't nearly the franchise that Metroid is, like as far as success goes. But
two Kid Icarus games. There's the original, and there's that 3DS one that came out.
Yeah. But it's like I've always said ActRaiser is like my one big void on the SNES, my SNES bingo card. And now that I'm done Metroid, I feel like Kid Icarus is my one big void on my NES bingo card. Yeah. So I will get there eventually, but
I should probably at some point.
Yeah, but no time soon. Metroid ruined Kid Icarus for me. So I'm not going back to another tough NES game anytime soon. Buddy, that was fun. I like that. That was good. It took 35 years. Finally played fucking Metroid. So thank you very much, Daniel, as always, for coming on the show and for chatting Metroid with me, buddy. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode. Daniel, thank you so much for not only giving me a call to talk Metroid, but for grinding your way through it just for the podcast. I appreciate it. And to every single one of you nerds listening to this right now, whether this was your first to remember the game or your 214th or maybe some other number, I don't know. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you thought this show didn't suck, leave us a nice review. I don't know what they accomplish, but the good podcasts ask for them, and we want to be one of the good podcasts. So we're going to ask for it as well. Leave us a nice review somewhere. I'd really appreciate that. And if you want more of this, if you can't get enough of my shit voice and you're like, I need more, there are literally hundreds of bonus podcasts and 2 to 3 additional podcasts every single week waiting for you at patreon.com/rememberthegame. Subscriptions start at just $2 a month, and 5% is going to be donated to the Stoller Children's Hospital. So you keep my lights on, we help some kids, and you get a ton of podcasts to listen to while you're at work and you don't want to listen to your stupid boss. I will be back tomorrow for all of our patrons with Expansion Pass. What are we at? 128, I think, which is Gamer Confessions number 3. As highly anticipated as any episode we've ever done on Expansion Pass. I'll be back with Game Patch on Friday, where we'll talk about the Nintendo Direct this week and anything else that breaks in the world of gaming. And I'll be back next week with Remember the Game number 215, which will be another one of our revisited episodes where we talk Mega Man X, baby. I'm so excited for that. I have got to thank some Patreons, as I'm contractually obligated to do, and get the fuck out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody, and I will talk to you on the next one. Cheers. Remember the Game is brought to you by our Patreons. I could not puke up all the content I churn out every week without all of your support. The following people are at the senior executive vice president level or higher at patreon.com/rememberthegame, and as such, I have promised to say all their names on the podcast and probably butcher a whole bunch of them at the same time. So a massive thank you to Makeshift Mallow Money, Joe Buck, Sharonic, Andre, Best Podcast Advice, James Clark, Robert Lippa, King Bahamut, Dave McGee, DNA Gaming, Slick Rick, Doug Doran, Charlie Medeiros, Andrew Wright, Jordan, Fraser Burns, Lil Bunny Fufu 89, Angry Ticks, Dave Thompson, No One Cares, Aaron Lawson, Nathan Tremblay, A-Town, Morgan, Zane Donovan, Ryan Kinchin, Mike Maloney, G9PSX, Mercury 869, Wolfgang Darren, Sam Wright, Andy Hudson, Chris Copland, Doogie, Matt McLean, Wolf Magic 21, Johnny CCDC, Joel LeBlanc, Squints, Chowdy Loudy, Titan 420, Zonko 504, Russell Aldridge, Jeff Bergeron, Captain N, Game Nomad Misi, Nerdy Retro Gamer 86, Daniel, Tunable Power, John Woodruff, Randy Barrage, fuck. I was doing good too. Inhuman Sumo, Thomas Simmons, Just a Fish, Noob Q, Super Dad Bros Podcast, Denzalo, Holmes, Tommy, Zach Shepard, Chris Dickin, Matthew D'Amico, Daja 1K1T, Frosty Feet 492, Triple, Austin Cook, Elijah Burns, Stephen Parnell, Austin Price, Aaron Price, god damn it, Dakabai, Raysan Wantonga. I'm going to finish this. Zach Coiner, DBXJ, Jameer Williams, Steve Dalk, Phil McCracken, Sid's Good Leg, Trav H, Mizuru, Nicholas Chaffee, David Marcus, Jacob Adams, Phil Lencher, Ruben Elizalde, Eric James, Riley Turvey, Nick Amos, Jake Carter, Mexican Johnny, C-Spin, Thomas Smith, Ian Keg, fuck's sakes. My phone is like, someone is texting me like crazy right now, and I'm trying to read off the shout-outs, but I keep looking down at my phone, and it's just ruining me. Turning it over here so I don't see it anymore. I think it's someone canceling a comedy gig, too. Fuck me. Blake Gregory, Nicola, Munch Makuchi, DB Muppet. Fuck me. Leroy Westrich, Dark Squall, Jerry the 3D Printed Saustrich, Russell, Evolva, Sean Ramos, DB Cooper, Stud Still Smash, Mojo the Helper Monkey, Solid Rake, Brant Hewitt, Gabe, Dan Fusselman, Aaron Mitson, Fuzzy99, Decoy Man, John Jameson, Wyatt the Surgeon, who's not a surgeon, Rowe, Tyler Nightmare, Blaine the Hoagie Man, Scary Terry, Bucky Duck, Benjamin Swiller, Creature Club, Pet My Peeve Podcast, Hagel Waffle, Esteban Navarro, K-Hatch, Jimothy, Joe Stone, Chris Williams, Oroku Saki's Gardner, Evil Skywalker, Nicole Novak, Cody Richardson, General Fury, Salty by Design, Jason Workman, Dem Boys on the Roof, Oh What the Fuck, LOL, Max Lagroom, James Juan Francesco, The Jamadian Nightmare, Matt Hamilton, Nomad, James Black, Drugs Are Bad MK, Sam Carpenter, Nerdy Hybrid, Tug Jones, Adam Fletcher, Colin Bollinger, Justified 01, Lucas, Joey Mercury, You Lick My Butt, IR Jackal, Theoran, Squeak Nuts, Isaias, Timmy the Exuberant Turtle, Lance Jones, Brian Neese, Christian Gabriel, Maverick Marty, Musty Beetle, Big Poppy Logan, Phil Vow, John M. Watkins, Vega Versio, Beef Dingleberry, Michael Barjudina, Michael B. Hitchy Poo, David... Daniel Matthews, Arctic Fission, Romaldo Marquez, Connor McCann, Bulma Simp, Mark Neely, I don't even care if I say them wrong anymore, Darren Dickey, Trevor McKee, Quiet Place Queen, Cam Nelly 23, Zamato Skillaroonie, Angelo Leonardo, Lugnut, Scott Weiss, Edgemaster P, Oh My God, It Froze, Bobby Litton, Roger Russell, Taylor Lynn White, Kia Pup, Knife Goes In, Guts Come Out, and Works For Me. Oh my God, that was the worst ever. Oh, Purple Monkey Dishwasher. Fuck.